It's our first meeting this year. Thanks everyone for attending this planning committee on the 11th of January 2022. My name's Councillor June Molyneux, I'm chair of the committee, Councillor Alex Hilton's vice chair. Please note this committee meeting is being streamed live on YouTube with public speakers joining via Microsoft Teams. If you join the call because you're a member of the public who is registered to speak, please note you have a time limit of up to 3 minutes. If you're calling on a phone, you'll need to press *6 to unmute your device when invited to speak. The legal officer will operate a stopwatch and confirm when your time runs out. You should then finish, or if in the middle of making a point, wind up within a few seconds and finish speaking. Otherwise, your microphone will be muted. For ease, a pack has been prepared which contains the report, plans, presentation slides for each item to ensure everyone can easily follow the agenda. This is available online. After officers have presented the report and any speakers have made their representations, I'll invite members to make any comments. When you want to speak, please indicate to me that you wish to speak. When invited to speak, please turn your microphone on. Please turn your microphone off when you finish speaking. When speaking, please reference the paragraph and page number to enable everyone to follow you. If technology fails, then I'll adjourn the meeting for a few minutes to try and resolve the issue. If this isn't possible, a new date and time will be organised. With that, apologies. Matthew.
We have apologies from Councillor Keith Idden and Councillor Howard Heaton and Councillor John Darwin is attending as substitute.
Okay, so we've got 2 for 1 now, or 1 for 2 really. Item 1, the minutes of the 21st of December, pages 3 to 4. Can somebody move those minutes, please? Thank you. Seconded. All those in favour of those minutes? That's everyone. Oh, we could have voted, couldn't we? But it didn't come up. Right. Declarations of any interest, item 2. Members are reminded of their responsibility to declare any pecuniary interest in any respect of matters contained in the agenda. If you have such an interest, you must withdraw from the meeting. Normally, you should leave the room before the business starts to be discussed. You do, however, have the same right to speak as any member of the public and may remain in the room to enable you to exercise that right and then leave immediately. In either case, you must not seek to improperly influence a decision on the matter. With that, we'll go on to item 3, planning applications to be determined. Before we do that, the first application we've got, we had a site visit. A site visit was asked for. One of the things that it was a bit annoying, that the people who proposed and seconded the site visit didn't actually attend that site visit. There were only 3 of us and we had only 1 apology. So we need to be thinking seriously about why we're going on a site visit. We need to have good reasons to doing it, not just think, well, I'll propose a site visit. No. And if you can't go on the site visit and you propose and second it, please let us know. Because the vice chair had to take time off work. I had lots of other things to do that day. I could have done with not being on the site visit, but it was cold, so we went. And there were only 3 of us. On the previous site visit, there were only 3 of us attending. So can we really think about whether we need a site visit and to go? Okay. With that, we have 4 items to discuss. Plans. For the benefit of the public here tonight, speaking arrangements for planning applications as follows. The officers will summarise the report. Registered speakers will be invited to speak in the following order: objector, supporter, parish attend councillor, ward councillor, and applicant or agent. All registered speakers will be allowed to speak for 3 minutes, apart from a ward councillor who may speak for up to 5 minutes. In the event that all speakers are against an application, as chair, I'll grant the applicant or representative a time extension. I would respectfully ask members of the public who have not registered to speak to remain quiet throughout the proceedings, and can you make sure all your phones are turned to silent, please? With that, I've turned over 2 pages together. We will go on to item 3A, land south of Redbank, Scout Hut, Little Carr Lane, Chorley, pages 5 to 20. Adele's going to present this item. There are no speakers. The recommendation is to approve the application. Adele, can you present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
As Chair mentioned, this application was deferred for a site visit at committee on the 7th of December, and that took place at the end of last week. The application relates to an area of land to the south of Red Bank Scout Hut on Little Carr Lane. The land was formerly occupied by a pumping station and is accessed from Melrose Way. A mature tree belt lies adjacent to the site. The application seeks planning permission retrospectively for the use of the site for Class B2 and B8 use between the hours of 8:30 in the morning and 4:45 Monday to Friday. 5 letters of objection have been received, raising issues relating to reduction in privacy to neighbouring dwellings, highway safety due to vehicles being parked on the road, the site being directly adjacent to residential dwellings, antisocial hours of operation, and that the site is being used as a dumping ground. No objections have been raised by the local highway authority or the council's own regulatory services officers. The site lies within the settlement of Chorley and is located opposite a large commercial building that it would be associated with. It would therefore not be out of keeping with the surrounding area. Whilst the site is directly adjacent to residential dwellings, the hours of operation have been amended so that the proposed use would only be in operation during weekdays, as I mentioned at the start, between 8:30 and 4:45, when general background noise would be at its greatest. Furthermore, the applicant has proposed acoustic fencing and planting to the site boundary to reduce noise transmission and issues of privacy. It is therefore not considered that the proposal would result in detrimental impact on the occupiers of neighbouring dwellings, and it is recommended that the application is approved subject to conditions as detailed in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Right, over to you, members. Councillor France.
Thank you, Chair. I was the third person on the site visit, so I did see this site. I'd just like to refer members to page 5, and it's paragraph 21. I've a certain sympathy with the objector who says the site is untidy, because it was untidy. But in paragraph 21, towards the end, in case the storage of vehicles is likely to require a number of manoeuvres to move them in and out of sight. Now, I saw at least one scrap vehicle on that site, quite possibly 2. I don't suppose there's anything we could do in conditions or anything to move those vehicles, but it would certainly improve manoeuvring around that site. And as I say, it was a little bit untidy, but I can't see a reason to refuse the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I also went on the site visit, and I agree with Councillor France that the site was untidy. However, the applicant has quite clearly stated that they are going to put an acoustic fence in there, which I think will hide some of the mess. And I think they're going to be doing some planting as well. So hopefully that issue will be reduced slightly. I think the hours of operation are actually quite courteous and reasonable as well for this area. So I have no issues with this application at all, and I'll happily propose officer recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Seconded.
If not, can we move to the vote, please? You should get your buttons in a minute. There we go. So can you use your keypad to press it, to vote? Councillor, yeah, no, okay. Taz?
Thank you, Chair. So members have decided to grant planning permission subject to conditions in respect of land south of Red Bank, Scout Lane, Little Carr. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Item B and C are both, we're going to just do one preamble, but we'll take the vote separately, which is for Whins Green Kitchen, Whins Lane, Wheelton, pages 21 to 42 and 43 to 64. Ian's going to present this item. The officer recommendation for both is planning permission is granted subject to conditions. I have one registered speaker, Dermot Monaghan. Dermot, can you hear and able to speak?
Yeah, I can hear, thank you.
Thank you, excellent. Ian, can you present the report, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. These applications relate to a planning permission that was previously granted for the use of a building at Whins Farm Barn as a holistic spa and cafe, and the subsequent conversion of a void space to serve those uses. The site's located in a rural area at Wheelton on Whins Lane, and the applications seek permission to vary conditions controlling the hours of operation in order to allow longer opening hours on Fridays and Saturdays of between 9 a.m. and 11 p.m. The current conditions set the hours of operation to between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. Mondays to Saturdays and 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sundays. The main issue for consideration is the impact of the increased opening hours on the amenity of nearby residential occupiers. It's noted that there is an outdoor dining area and a seating area at the site, and that the use of these areas does have some potential for noise generation from customers, whilst disturbance is also possible from vehicle movements into and out of the car park. The open terraced area and car park are largely screened from the residential properties to the southwest by the application building and Whins Barn, whilst there's a good degree of separation. However, the open seating area to the northwest of the building is closer to the dwelling and garden at Whins Farm and is less well screened. It is considered that the use of this area into the evenings has the potential for noise disturbance, and whilst no complaints have been received by the Council's environmental health team, it is considered that the use of this outdoor area during the evenings would have an unacceptable impact on the amenity of neighbouring occupiers. Overall, it is considered that the use of the building for the extended hours of between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays would not have any unacceptable impact on the neighbouring occupiers, and it's recommended that the associated conditions can be varied on that basis. This is, however, on the proviso that additional conditions are attached, preventing any outside use during these extended hours. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Right, Dermot, would you like to speak now? Can you start the timer? Okay.
Yes, so I think in our view, the expansion of the businesses are already beyond what the site can contain. So the site is currently 3 times the size, the original footings, also the original building. And that causes a lot of, obviously it's a lot bigger than it should be. But so the main issue actually is the roadway. So the car park is tight. There's probably spaces for a dozen cars, but there's 5 residents' cars plus staff cars. So people don't use the car park. It's very difficult. So on a busy day, the road can have up to, during the day, 150, 200 metres of parked cars on the road. The road has a low curb. There's a single footpath on the road. It's a 60-mile-an-hour road. There's no street lighting. So during the day, people quite often park obscure on front of our gate, which is nice, but equally and neighbours' gates as well. But it's very difficult to get out in the daytime to see. So in our view, there's a road safety issue. So I think that's and also the noise and disturbance is not a noise, and I'd agree it's not noise and disturbance from the premises, it's actually noise and disturbance from the road. And also in the evening, people have had a drink, so I'd expect there'd be a lot more noise than there is during the daytime. And I'd say that this is probably more appropriate for a town centre location rather than this is, after all, this is in Greenbelt. It's a very quiet, dark road in Greenbelt. So to extend it into the evening, I would think would be, well, that's our main objection to the noise and disturbance to the area.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to come back on anything, Ian? No? Okay. Right, over to you, members. Councillor France.
Thank you, Chair. I think because there's an outdoor seating area, this is a quiet cul-de-sac, and if members remember going down to Prospect House to look at the garden, this is the area where this is. I know a number of us actually went on that site visit, so we have been and seen this site. The only thing I would have said, I would like to see a noise assessment, because this is a quiet cul-de-sac, whilst this particular property is, from my memory, and I think I'm right, the first property on the right. I'm just concerned that on Friday 11 o'clock and Saturday 11 o'clock, you could get some noise if there was outdoor music. So the only comment I make is I would have liked to have seen a noise assessment.
Thank you, Councillor France. Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I do have some sympathy with the residents here in terms of the impact on the local amenity. I think there is the potential for additional noise, particularly late into the evening till about 11 o'clock. So I do sort of share some concerns on that. However, I don't believe there are any complaints about the current situation as it is at the moment. This is a business that has grown and continues to grow. And whilst I'm mindful we need to support rural businesses, I think we also need to balance that with the impact on the local community for the residents. As there have been no complaints, I think it's reasonable to allow the additional hours, but what I would like to propose is an amendment to this where we do this for a temporary period of 12 months so we can actually determine whether the new hours can continue to operate without harm. So I do support the application, but I think that we should put a temporary time limit of 12 months on to determine the impact on the local area. So I'd like to propose that amendment. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Ian, do you want to come in before I move to anybody else?
Oh, yes, please, Chair. Just in response to the
Okay,
concern raised by Councillor France in relation to music, there is a condition recommended that would prevent the playing or reproduction of music in the building or on the site if the consent were to be granted. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Ian.
Thanks. Councillor Boardman.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I agree. I do have some sympathy for the residents on that lane. I do remember going down that lane to look at the Prospect House. It is a small lane, and if the speaker tonight is correct and cars are queuing down the lane, it would be quite congested, and I can see it being a bit of a hindrance, in all honesty. I don't have an issue with the application as such, or either application. I think we need to support growing businesses, and especially ones that are for health and well-being. Town centre location probably isn't the right location for this, because it needs to be out in the countryside and in the fresh air so people can appreciate it. But that being said, if there is an issue with the car parking and the volumes, I would like just to ask a planning officer if he can confirm if there is sufficient car parking on the existing site to cater for the number of customers and proposed customers that will be there during the day and during the evening. And if not, is there something we can condition or ask for additional space?
Ian, do you want to come back?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So the level of floor space for the building wouldn't be increased. Essentially, the capacity of the building to accommodate customers for the spa and the cafe there'd be no uplift. So there's no requirement for them to increase their level of parking provision, which previously has been considered to be an acceptable level of provision. And there is reason, there's adequate on-street parking that supports the car park that serves the building as well. So that's been accepted previously, and as there's no increase in capacity, we can't really seek additional space to accommodate further vehicles. Thanks, Chair.
Just come back, Chair.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, and I appreciate that. I'll be honest, I don't agree with the limitation on the 12 months, I'm afraid. I think if a business is going to invest in putting an infrastructure in place and encouraging customers, I think they need some confidence that they can do that for the longevity of the permission on that site. So I would move to approve the officer's recommendation.
Okay. Any more comments? I've had a proposal for the amendment to give temporary admission to 12 months, if somebody would like to second that. Councillor Morwood. Thank you.
Yes,
I have a proposal for the officer recommendation. Is anybody going to second that? Thank you. That's Councillor Cullens. I'll take the amendment first. So, yeah, come on, yeah. Sorry, Adele wants to comment.
Yeah, just as a point of clarification, really, it is unusual to grant temporary permissions for existing businesses, but, just to remind members that this is already an existing business that has already set up and is running. So there's no additional works required as part of the proposal to actually implement it. It's simply using what is there already for a longer period of time. So I just wanted to make that point really. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to take the amendment first, that we grant temporary permission for 12 months on.
Just clarify.
Yes, it's going to be on both items, and I'm going to do the item 3B first, which is the planning permission from the holistic spa and cafe and the hours, so we're going to do that. So all those in favour of the amendment, could you please show? Green button if you're in favour, red if you're against, the other button if you're not. Well, it's all right. It's okay. I've got casting vote, and I say that we give temporary planning a vote for the amendment. Okay.
You're not taking a vote on the other, Chair?
I'm going to do the other one now.
No, the second.
Sorry?
Is there a need to do a vote on the...
No, because the amendment's been carried. How long have I been doing this? Yeah, I sometimes think that myself. So item 3C is the conversion of the subterranean void space beneath the existing building, the associated construction to allow longer hours of opening for that between 9 and I would imagine that I will go for the amendment first. All those in favour of the amendment, please show. Okay, everybody's voted. So I vote for the amendment again. My casting vote will go to that. Okay, thank you.
Chair, do you want me to confirm?
So, oh, sorry, Taz, yes. It's
Thank
because
you,
you're not
Chair.
there. I look there and you're not there.
Thank you, Chair. So, committee have, by majority, decided to grant planning permission subject to conditions, including condition for temporary period in respect of Whins Green Kitchen, Whins Lane, Wheelton, until the 10th of January 2023, because I think it was proposed for a 12-month period.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Item D, 3D. 19 Cross Keys Drive, Whittle-Le-Woods, Chorley, pages 65 to 82. Adele's going to present this item. The recommendation is planning permission is granted subject to conditions. I have two registered speakers, the objector, John Holton, and the applicant, Alistair Mullen. John, Alistair, can you hear and able to speak?
Yeah, I can hear and able to speak.
Yeah, indeed, that's fine.
Thank you. Adele, can you present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This application relates to a detached dwelling located on Cross Keys Drive, but also backs onto Carwood Lane. The neighbouring property at Highview faces towards Carwood. The application seeks planning permission retrospectively for the erection of a 1.82 metre high fence to the rear and eastern boundary of the site. A pedestrian access gate is also included to the rear. 5 letters of objection have been received, and these are detailed in the main report. Whittle-Le-Woods Parish Council have also objected to the application on the grounds that the original decision for the properties stated that the existing hedge on Carwood Lane should not be uprooted or removed and that no pedestrian access should be formed. Lancashire County Council Highway Services have raised no objection to the proposal from a highway safety perspective. It's considered that the erection of the fence has had no detrimental impacts on the listed buildings located on the opposite side of Carwood Lane, as the fence is read against the existing modern housing development, resulting in negligible additional harm. There is no detrimental impact on the street scene as a result of the fence, as it is set back behind the existing hedge on approach along Carwood Lane and is not fully visible before the turning head in the road, which is a no-through road. It is read against the more modern dwellings on this side of Carwood Lane, and on which there is no detrimental impact given the orientation and juxtaposition of the properties. The Highway Authority retracted their initial concerns regarding highway amenity, as the property owner entered into a Section 184 agreement during the course of the application to drop the curb and providing curtilage parking, thus removing concerns relating to potential parking on Carwood Lane. No issues relating to highway safety have been raised. On this basis, it is considered that the proposal is acceptable and it is recommended that the application is approved. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Adele. John, would you like to speak now?
Yeah,
Taz,
thank
can
you very
start
much.
the timer? Okay.
Thank you for this opportunity. Just for clarity, this objection isn't with regard to the erection of the fence. This is purely concentrated on the insertion of the gate and the provision of the path adjacent to the estate boundary. So I've been asked to speak on behalf of the residents of Carwood Lane and also the parish, and just capturing the parish council's concerns. Yes, they do reference the planning application back in 1992 and clause 16 in pertaining to that, that states that no access pedestrian or vehicular shall be formed to Carwood Lane, and then they follow on with further reference to the planning application 5 years later in 1997, which is very pertinent actually, because clause 21 refers to that a 1 metre high fence should be erected set back 1.2 metres from the centre line of the hedge. And actually that's how the estate boundaries on those rear elevations have been established. The applicant has positioned his fence as was originally positioned. So just to reiterate, this objection is not with regard to the positioning of the fence, but it is to do with the insertion of the gate and the path access in that. The site plan in your pack on page 77 is therefore incorrect, I believe, because it doesn't take cognizance of the estate boundary, the relationship of the estate boundary and the site boundaries and the setting out of that. So moving on to the residents of Carwood Lane, they similarly object to the gate and the footpath works. The planning application states that the gate was afforded access to complete construction and paving works to the rear gardens. This work is now being completed by the applicant, and therefore access is therefore no longer required. In the deeds and the title information of our houses that were constructed by David McLean back in 1997, there are numerous restricted covenants and obligations placed upon us in that transfer of the deed of the local authority title. I'm happy to make these available to the planning committee and to the local planning authority in the determination of this planning application. Just to reiterate a few of those covenants and restricted covenants, and they state that the boundary between Highview, my property, and the road, the unadopted turning head on the highway at Carwood Lane belongs to Highview. The deeds also go on to say that it's not, that we are not to erect or plant any gates or any fences or hedges whatsoever between any walls of the dwellings on the plot and the road that it abuts. And I think that's a key point, that we're not to erect any gates or form any gaps. It further goes on to explain that we're not to do any works to the service strip, to the unadopted highway. And again, that's where the access has been formed into the gate. Furthermore,
can you wind up now? You've had your 3 minutes.
I can. Furthermore, the residents of Carwood Lane are concerned that if a rear access is provided into that gate, that any extra traffic and parking that could arise from this rear access, and that if it's permitted to the residents of Cross Keys Drive, this would provide already congestion on the existing narrow.
You've had well over your 3 minutes now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alistair, you wish to speak now, please?
Hello, yeah. Thank you very much for...
Taz, can you do this?
You can hear me okay, can you?
Yeah, we're fine. Yeah, off you go.
Thank you very much. We contacted and engaged with Chorley Borough Council and Lancashire County Council for advice and guidance from July 2020 about doing extensive work to our property, including the fence and the gate access and things, as has been said. I can't articulate any better than the planning officers have about what we've done and how we've done it, and we've done it as unobtrusively as possible. They've mentioned the fact that there's absolutely negligible impact, negative impact on anyone else, but there's an absolutely massive positive impact for us. We've not removed anything or replaced. We've just replaced a fence that was 20 years old and that had been tampered with, had been damaged, had been painted without our consent. Lots of things done to that shouldn't have been done to it. That's meant that in the end we've had to spend considerable amounts of money to put that new fence up there. We've used local experts and people at considerable expense to make sure that we've replaced it with high quality and appropriate materials. The reason for engaging largely with Lancashire County Council was to make sure that everything and everything that we did was within our land boundaries. We haven't gone to the service strip. If you have a look at the photograph on page 78, that actually is labelled as fence in relation to neighbouring drive. You can see where the hedge comes round. That's where the hedges always come round, and there's a wall there as well. On all of our documents, our plot boundaries and everything, it shows where we've put the gate and the little bit of pathway there so that we can maintain and look after the bits of our land that are around that you can also see just outside there. We've done all of that within our boundaries. We spend, obviously, as many other people do, increasing time in our garden. We've never wanted to use that gate for habitual use. It's something that's there so that we can maintain our property, because there are bits of our property outside the fence we can have better access to and look after the hedge that we've also got obligations to look after. I mean, I didn't particularly want to have to say this, but clearly you can tell that there's some ill feeling between the person who's spoken as an objection and us. I've had to witness that person shovel animal faeces from his own garden and come and put them right behind my fence where we've done some of the new patio and decking, put it and dump it there, which is technically in our property. The one thing that gate does now is allows me that when I see that being done, and it's been done more than once, is to go out there and use poo bags and clear it up so that we can enjoy our garden without it smelling of animal faeces when we go out round the back.
Can you wind up now, please?
And in terms of driving access, in the 19 years that I've lived there, we've never once driven our car up Carwood Lane. And you can see, if you look at photograph...
you need to wind up now, you've had your 3 minutes.
On page 81, there's a photo that shows we've had extensive work done to the front to provide off-road parking and a drop curb. There's no way we would ever be using it for regular access. It's just for those purposes that we mentioned.
Okay.
We've got split that garden, we can't get access to it to complete up work. Thank you very much. Apologies if I run over.
Thank you. Adele, you wanted to come in. And I've got Councillor Whittaker waiting to speak online.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to respond to a couple of points that were raised because I think it's important that members are aware of the planning position. I know reference has been made to some historic planning permissions that have restrictive conditions preventing the formation of gates. That the condition doesn't prohibit that in perpetuity. It means that if a gate is to be installed in a fence, then it simply needs to have the permission of the local planning authority. The other point I wanted to make is, and members of this committee will be well aware of this, but for the avoidance of any doubt, I just want members to be reminded that the grant of planning permission does not override any other third-party consents that may be needed from elsewhere, from other statutory undertakers, nor does it override any covenants that may exist on deeds to properties. That is a private legal matter, and it's not something which this planning committee needs to concern itself with. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. I've got Councillor Whittaker, Councillor Gabbett and Councillor Boardman. Councillor Whittaker.
Thanks, Chair. I listened to the objector, I listened to the applicant. The thing that struck me about the comments made by the objector was that there seems to be some, and it's pertinent to what Adele just said, there seems to be some legal contradiction. The parish council are clear on one side, the objector is clear on the other about the requirement of a gate. Obviously, I haven't got a vote because I'm not there, but I wonder whether the council, the planning committee, might consider some sort of deferral for this particular item so that the legalities can be sorted out and clarified. I listened to what Adele said, and there's no planning condition that can't be changed, but I think given that there is local elected body, parish council has objected and the residents have objected, you know, I think it's important that they consider that. But I haven't got a vote, so I'll say no more, Chair.
Adele, you wanted to come in.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just reiterate what I said a short while ago. Whether there's covenants in place or not is not something that this committee can concern itself with, and it's for the owners of those covenants to enforce them if they do exist. A grant of planning permission doesn't override any restrictions that may exist in common law. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Gabbett.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, I got that, Adele. Thank you. I understand that now. Looking at it, I think from the person who's put in the planning application, I think it sounds like, and it looks like, according to the report, that he's done everything right. He's contacted the authorities, he's asked for guidance, put the materials that have been requested, and everything, which is sort of a planning authority's dream, really, because they've come and asked, and that's what they've done. Which does obviously concern me to see Parish Council objecting on a matter that has no regards to planning, as Adele's just mentioned. So it's quite concerning. But I'd like to propose that we accept officers' recommendations on this one. I see no reason for refusal.
Thank you. Councillor Boardman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Adele, for clearing that up. Appreciate that. That was one of my comments, but thank you for sorting that out for us. Yeah, I can see. I mean, no fence is well, is decent to look at, to be perfectly honest, and certainly not when the adjoining neighbour is looking at the rear of the fence. I did see the comment in the report that the fence is back to front, and I would agree that it is back to front. The fence is normally there to keep people out, but you can quite easily climb over that one because the rails are on the wrong side. But that being said, there's no law to say you can't put a fence in that way around. It does meet planning permission. Yes, a pedestrian gate is in there, but if the restricted covenants, like Adele says, are not in perpetuity, then I can't see the issue with it, and it's come back to planning permission for that reason. Therefore, I'd second Councillor Gabbett and move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Beaver.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just echo what Councillor Boardman said there. It could have been done better. There are fences out there that can be fenced on both sides. But I'm sure if I'd have done that fence, I'd have wanted to look at the nice side as well, and rather than the neighbours. But which brings me to the point, there are double-sided fences. But I don't suggest that you take it down and replace it. And I was going to second it.
Okay. I think that's been thirded. Councillor G.
Thanks, Chair. Excuse me. Yeah, I agree with what everyone said. It could have been a nicer fence. It doesn't look nice from the outside, but that's not planning problem. Just a question. I slightly object to the access. Actually, I would have thought it would be better without the access. I just want to know the strip of grass. Who that belongs to? Is it private or is it outside the state, or does it belong to the council, or who owns that? Because if you come out to the gate, you got that bit of stone, then you're straight onto the grass, and I just wondered who owns that area.
The only thing I can confirm, Councillor J, is that the applicant doesn't own that strip, or it's certainly outside the site edge red. It may be adopted as part of the highway, and it may be the county who are responsible for it. I don't know, no.
Okay. Has everybody spoken who wishes to speak? Councillor Marwood.
Just a quick one. It's pointed out that nobody's objecting to the fence, so whether it's back to front or ugly or nice, it's irrelevant really. It's the gate, and it's been explained to my satisfaction about the covenants, etc. So yeah, I'm happy to go with recommendations. Thanks.
Okay. Everybody's spoken that wants to. If so, I'll move to the vote. I've got a proposer and a seconder for the officer recommendation. All those in favour of the officer recommendation? Well, we're going to vote now. Okay. Taz?
Thank you, Chair. So, committee have granted planning permission retrospectively for the erection of a boundary fence and access gate to the rear boundary of 19 Cross Keys Drive, Whittle-Le-Woods. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. That's all the planning application. Item 4, Confirmation of the TPO number 7 in Coppull, pages 83 to 90. Adele's going to present this item.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this TPO was made provisionally last year, and this report seeks for it to be confirmed with one modification, and that's a correction to one of the tree species. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Gabbard.
I propose we go with the officer's
Councillor Beaver.
recommendations on that.
Okay, so is that proposed and seconded? All those in favour? Oh, you see, you're doing it. Press your buttons. Okay, Tav.
Thank you, Chair. So members have agreed to formally confirm the order with one modification, and this affords permanent as opposed to provisional legal protection to the trees. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. It's my fault, I should say, please vote by using the voting system, and I forget. Okay, that finishes the business. I have no urgent items. Thank you for your attention.